Okay, so you're joining us for what looks like a pretty significant development today.
Definitely. We're talking about a potential, well, a real shift in how the U.S. might fund UN peacekeeping.
Yeah, there's this report out in the Jerusalem Post. It suggests the Trump administration is looking at basically ending U.S. funding for these UN missions.
Which is, I mean, a huge deal if it happened.
Right. So what's really going on here? What are the implications? And, what are the specific worries being raised? That's what we want to get into.
Exactly. Our mission for this deep dive is simple. Pull out the absolute key info from that article for you, save you the trouble, and just give some clarity on, well, this whole situation.
Okay, so let's start with the core proposal itself.
Mhm.
The report says the administration is looking to completely stop funding UN peacekeeping.
Yeah, completely stop. It's not just trimming the edges. The article mentions this budget memo. They call it the passback. And that's apparently where this plan is laid out. Zero funding.
And this isn't happening in a vacuum, right?
No, not at all. You have to see it as part of this bigger push to cut the State Department's budget overall.
For the next fiscal year, starting October 1st.
That's the one. So peacekeeping funding is sort of caught up in that broader effort.
So why peacekeeping specifically? What reasons does the article give for targeting these funds?
Well, the memo apparently cites, quote, recent failures in peacekeeping. That's one key reason.
Failures. Okay. Does it give example?
It does. It specifically flags operations in Mali, Lebanon, and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Hmm. Those are complex situations.
Very complex. And the other main reason given is the cost, the idea that the U.S. carries a, quote, disproportionately high financial burden for these missions.
Okay, let's talk about that burden. What does the U.S. currently pay?
The article breaks that down, right?
It does, and it's substantial. For the UN's core regular budget, this is mandatory stuff. The U.S. pays 22%.
22% of the main budget. And for peacekeeping.
Even higher. It's 27% of the peacekeeping budget. Again, that's technically a mandatory payment based on UN assessments. So nearly a third of the peacekeeping costs. And the proposal from the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, is to take that 27%.
Down to zero. That's the recommendation mentioned in the article. For the specific account called Contributions for International Peacekeeping Activities, they're suggesting no funding at all.
Wow. Okay, but this isn't set in stone yet, is it?
No, definitely not. And that's crucial for listeners to understand. The article includes a statement from a State Department spokesperson, Tammy Bruce.
Right, I saw that. What did she say?
She basically said, there's no final plan, final budget yet. It's an ongoing process.
And ultimately, Congress has the power of the purse here. They'd have to approve any cuts like this.
Precisely. And, there's history here, too.
You mean trying this before?
Yeah. The article points out that similar big cuts were proposed during Trump's first term.
And what happened then?
Well, lawmakers, by and large, rejected them. Congress didn't go along with it, so there's precedent for pushback.
Interesting. So resistance is possible, maybe even likely.
Could be. Now, the administration isn't just proposing cuts. They seem to have an alternative idea for spending, right?
Ah, yes, this America First Opportunities Fund. What's the deal with that?
Well, the article mentions it as a new proposed fund, about $2.1 billion. The idea seems to be using it for more targeted foreign aid programs, things chosen specifically by the administration.
So moving away from the sort of assessed UN contributions towards more direct, maybe bilateral aid.
Seems like that's the direction. And interestingly, the article notes they've floated the idea that future UN contributions could potentially come out of this fund.
If necessary. I remember seeing that phrase.
Exactly, if necessary. Which, adds a layer of uncertainty, doesn't it? Makes funding less predictable for the UN.
Yeah, conditional. And this whole discussion is happening at a time when the UN is already,
Yeah.
well, struggling financially.
That's another really important piece of context from the article. It highlights that the UN is already dealing with a liquidity crisis. They're short on cash flow.
So pulling potentially billions in U.S. funding would obviously make that much worse.
You'd think so. And on top of potential future cuts, the article also mentions the U.S. is already behind on its current payments.
Oh, really? How much?
The figure cited is nearly $2.7 billion. That's outstanding dues for both the regular budget and the peacekeeping budget combined.
So we owe money already, and now there's talk of stopping future payments entirely.
That's the picture the article paints. It really could put the UN in a difficult spot financially.
Did the UN comment on this leaked proposal?
The article says they didn't offer a comment. which, isn't too surprising given it's a leaked memo, not official policy yet.
Right, they probably wait for something more concrete.
Usually, yes. But you have to imagine a proposal like this coming from their biggest funder is causing some serious concern behind the scenes.
Okay, so let's try and summarize the key things for you listening. We've got this proposal, reported in the Jerusalem Post, for the Trump administration to potentially end U.S. funding for UN peacekeeping.
The reasons given are alleged failures in places like Mali, Lebanon, the DRC, and the costs the U.S. paying what they call a disproportionate share, currently 27% of the peacekeeping budget.
This plan is apparently in a budget memo, the passback, and it's part of a wider goal to cut State Department spending.
But it's not final. A State Department spokesperson says no final plan exists, and Congress would absolutely have to approve it. History suggests Congress might resist.
And there's this alternative idea floated, an America First Opportunities Fund for targeted aid, which might fund the UN later if necessary.
All while the UN is already facing cash flow problems, and the U.S. apparently owes almost $2.7 billion in back payments anyway.
So it's a complex situation, still very much developing. Congress is key here.
Absolutely. And stepping back, this really prompts bigger questions about America's role in the world.
For sure, it makes you think. Given the UN's current money troubles and the reasons the administration is giving for these cuts, what would the actual global impact be if this really went ahead?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the multi-billion-dollar question here. How would global security efforts adapt? Who would step into the funding gap, if anyone?
And how effective could peacekeeping even be without that significant U.S. financial backing? Lots to consider.
Definitely something for you to keep thinking about. It really touches on the future of international cooperation and global security structures.
It's a story we'll be watching closely as it moves, or doesn't move, through the political process. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us today.